Hello, everybody. We're getting ready to start. I hope you all are doing good, and I'm looking forward to whoever feels called to share today. I'm just gonna wait a few minutes for some more people to come in here, but feel free to request to speak. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for where this adventure goes.
This is a fun topic. There's a lot of avenues we can explore, so I'm happy you're putting this on first topic.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of topics that are a lot of people have expressed fear or hesitation to talk about this, or maybe uncertainty about exploring it, or about memories that they think might be surfacing. And I just want to provide a safe place for all topics like this for people to explore and not feel judged or anything like that, because life is mysterious and the metaphysical topics are always, something that we can feel certain of and then also be questioning kind of at the same time, and that can feel unsettling for people. Let's start out by just I want to say hello to everybody that's joining us. Everybody's welcome here to speak and share. Feel free to request the microphone. Oh, here I see someone requesting. I'll get to you here. Yay, Nakayima, I'm so excited you're here. Let's start out with the prayer and visualization for spiritual protection, because the spirit world and the metaphysical world is real. And in the same way that there's creatures in nature that aren't evil, there's also natural laws. Like there's beautiful spiders that can kill people, and it doesn't make them evil. But in the spirit realm, there's spirits that maybe you're curious about things, and maybe they like to stir around energy just to feel seen and heard. But we're not trying to have our light on for every trick-or-treater in the world. We're just trying to create a safe place for a spiritual topic, without any interference that's not in the highest good. So I ask that this space and everyone in this space that feels drawn in here, that even comes in for a minute, be divinely protected, spirit, soul, body, astrally, in any other realms or layers. I ask that only that which is in the highest good can be perceived and experienced here, and that anything that is not in the highest good would be sent on its merry way. Let's visualize that. Okay, so I've remembered at least 3 past lives, possibly 4. And in some small bits and pieces, some of these memories came through as dreams. Some of them came through during meditation. Some of them just feel like a thing, like a knowing. And then for these knowing ones, they're not just knowing ones, but what's interesting about some of these is that your current life can start to create synchronicities that are sort of like little hints that guide you, and then you can start to explore these things. And it's kind of like collecting little pieces of a puzzle or finding little pieces, and then you just tuck them away, and then you start observing patterns emerge, and things fitting together, and things making sense on a variety of levels and dimensions. And I know that I'm not the only one who's had these memories surface. So I would love to hear from any and all of you who feel guided to share. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Citizen. Thank you for sharing some of those links. I tried to create a little chart, I guess, explaining some of the things that can happen as you remember past lives, because a lot of people seem to think that it's like this mystical magical experience and it almost like a fantasy fairy tale, and I would say that there is definitely an element of that, but it can also feel like traumatic, maybe confusing, upsetting, like emotional. For some people, it's extremely life altering, especially some people who've had near death experiences and then they remember stuff from past lives, or even some people start remembering past lives and they just can't shake it off. And maybe their partner or family or other people in their lives haven't found a way to come to peace with this topic or this idea. They're struggling with being open minded. And then that person who's having these memories might start to feel alone or crazy or weird, or just like not really have a way to, they might not feel sure about how to integrate these thoughts and feelings and memories. And what is the point of it? I personally feel and believe that the point of it is because it's like, it's kind of like if you watch a series like Lord of the Rings or something where there's multiple movies, and if you watch one movie and somebody might say, what's the point of knowing, what happened before Frodo had the ring? Well, if you watch The Hobbit where Bilbo has the ring, then you might feel like, oh, that was fucking awesome to know the backstory to this or that. And that's kind of how I feel about past lives. Like they can build on one another or create like a layered insight. And it might be a part of like a much bigger story. And so then it's not like this random weirdness that you don't have a box for. Um, so I just kind of wanted to say that. And Citizen, do you want to say anything, or anyone else?
Yeah, I wanted to. That's lovely, everything you said. And the Lord of the Rings analogy is perfect. I wanted to share this quote, which I posted here in the Jumbotron area. This is from Padma. He said, "If you want to know your past life, look into your present condition. If you want to know your future life, look at your present actions." And so, like Cosmic, I think we want to hear a lot of stories, and if people want to share and get into their personal experiences with this, just a high level, your consciousness continues after you die, in my opinion. And if you believe that, you're going to have future lives and you've had past lives. And um, yeah, just high level, it's like, who are you as a being, as a person? You're here now doing everything you are in your 3D world. There's been experiences that you've had and experiences that you're going to have. It's all like Cosmic is saying, it's like a lineage. It's a never-ending timeline for your soul. I know time doesn't exist and all that stuff. It's all existing at the same time. I don't know if we need to go there or not. But these things bleed into this world, into our daily lives in various ways. And I think it's not well understood, and I think it should be. And so the other thing I shared there was Cosmic's little wheel of integration, talking about this, which maybe Cosmic, you could go over that at some point, because it bleeds in various ways, and I've experienced it. I'm sure everyone has, whether they realize it or not. You may meet someone and have a deep emotional reaction of some kind. And a lot of that isn't dependent on what's going on in the present day. It has to do with what happened in the past. And so, like you were saying, Cosmic, it can be this fantasy world that you can create or live in. Um, but to Padma's point there, it's like, if you want to understand where you're at, you got to know where you've been. And if you have these relationships that are karmic or tied up with these past lives, knowing and understanding the full nature of that can be very freeing. You're not bound by the energy anymore, and you don't have to have the same emotional reactions. In my life, I have a very emotionally charged relationship with someone, a family member, And it's a lot of it has to do with our history together, our multiple histories. And there's no, in my opinion, there's no amount of therapy you can do that will fix that energy. It has to be understood in this context, in the context of past lives, knowing your karmic history, knowing the things you've done, and then forgiving it, releasing it, and moving on in the way that you want. It's all about liberation and freedom, in my opinion. So that's just trying to set the stage a little bit for what we're talking about. And again, anyone who wants to come up and share a story, just chat about this, please do. Nakajima, I see you're on the stage. It's good to see you again.
Yes, very well said there. I wanted to add something to build to that. So I've personally had some intense phobias that were like, where is this coming from? I've had extreme intense phobias with spiders of all sizes and kinds, and that's completely gone now in my life. It's not like I'd want to pet and take a nap with a spider, but it's just I've done a lot of energy healing, and some of it seemed to be possibly past life related. And as I've released that, cannot believe, I cannot tell you how life changing it is. It might seem like silly, like, yeah, you know, we don't see spiders that much in our lives, but it, I do see them a lot, and I live in the country, and so when I'm trying to do things, like, it used to be like terrifying to the point where like I would stop a project because I need somebody to come rescue me before I can finish it because I'm that scared. And there's other things where I've had like some intense phobias that didn't make sense, or maybe they only partially made sense. And like Citizen said, relationships with people where it's like, whoa, it feels like this girl hates me the second I meet her. Like, what the hell? Um, Things like that. And I had a client session once, and obviously I'm going to keep it anonymous, but it was interesting because she was telling me about her sister and this intense dynamic and how she was feeling astrally attacked by the sister. And I just like instantly felt like this was past life related. Um, and I asked her, and she said, yes, in fact, I have had a past life regression about her, and this happened. And it was like a really horrible thing where she had actually done something to the sisters. She had done something that would make the sister mad. Let's just put it this way. And so I said to her, what if this animosity that you feel from your sister in this life is because she subconsciously remembers that? But see, the thing that's interesting is a lot of people aren't open minded, or they're scared of the idea of past lives. And so you're not necessarily going to get them to be like, hey, remember that one time in our past life when you were a bitch to me? Yeah, well, I'm still kind of upset about that. And then they're going to say, oh, I totally remember that. Here's my take on what happened then. Like, that just doesn't really happen. It can happen, but it's not like the norm usually. And so her sister like thought she was weird, and I was like, it's not going to help you to just go to your sister and be like, remember that shit from past life, because she already isn't open minded to it. So that's not the approach to take. The approach to take is that you remember this, so you're responsible for what you remember. And you don't need to involve her. You can make peace with her in a spiritual level. So then we did this kind of spiritual ceremony where she was asking for forgiveness, actually, to her sister for this past life experience, and then kind of bringing it forward into the present. And you can do that to heal past life stuff. And sometimes, I will say, you can have instant healing between yourself and that person. However, sometimes maybe not, and that's okay, because sometimes people just aren't ready yet, and maybe they'll be ready later. um so I did want to put that out there, because it was a very good point that some of the people we meet might think they hate us, or we might feel like we don't like them either, and it might not be related to anything in this life, but it could be a worthy thing to explore. However, I don't recommend like chasing toxic behavior. Just had to put that out there.
Good point. I just wanted to add on to that a little bit. one thing, excuse me, one thing I found when I started thinking about this, and one thing we might want to talk about is the amnesia that comes in. It's like a feature, not a bug of the system. The amnesia is actually a good thing. However, when you start to think about these past life experiences and why are my relationships the way they are, like Cosmic was saying, why does this girl hate me and I don't even know her? It opens up this weird facet of psychology, where you really get to look at yourself in the context of, dare I say, good and evil. Like, we've all done horrible things to other people. And, I'm not saying this life, but in our past lives, I mean, everyone in this room looks lovely. And I imagine we're all star seed type people. And it's also true that in our past lives, we've all done horrible things. And this topic, in my opinion, one of the things that's great is that it brings up that awareness and it puts the power in this moment, this present moment, because we've all done those things and we're all experiencing the karmic repercussions of that. And so I find that part interesting. There's a lot of self-exploration and forgiveness that goes into this topic, and understanding that doing these things, let's say being horrible to another person in a past life, let's say, it's just part of the growth process that we all have to go through. And so, to the second point there on Padma's quote, if you want to know your future lives, you want to set up yourself for success or a better life in the future, look at what you're doing in this present moment, because all of the thoughts and actions that you're doing will be expressed somehow energetically in a future life. And so you can look at these past lives and understand all the things that we've done or maybe didn't do, and say, okay, well, how can I set myself up for my future lives? A lot of it's very liberating in that sense too. We think about, this is our, YOLO, this is our life. This is, I got to focus on this, but there's a lot of like, what are my future lives going to be like? What do I want my consciousness to be going forward? And so there's a lot of power in understanding these things. And go ahead, Nakima.
Well, how are you? I greet you all. And I take in the prayer that was given to us at the beginning, that everything we are going to take is going to nourish, add, develop, and help us on this journey of spiritual awakening and spiritual awareness. Personally, I think uh, it's sad that the world is engaging in mass deletion of spiritual memory. You know, what we do is spiritual child sacrifice. When we take our children and indoctrinate them and disregard that these children are individual spiritual entities that have come to also build and add value to this physical world, I think that's where we miss the point. You know, most people look at child sacrifice as a physical sacrifice. No, the world has engaged in spiritual child sacrifice. And parents are so comfortable saying they're protecting their children and they love them so much and they want them to be the best versions of themselves. I bet these people have never looked at what they're doing to their children by indoctrinating them with theories that maybe are not in line with who they are. People are hacking into these little human memories and not allowing them to thrive and develop. And that's the saddest bit about the world we live in. And people feel so validated when they are taking their babies to be baptized, to be turned into these religions. And they feel so confident and they invite people. They make parties. They make, fun. they make merry that they are finally deleting and inserting the world dogmas on this little baby. And no wonder, after a while, they are dealing with a lot of mental issues. We don't know that we are the cause of a lot of mental problems that we are struggling to handle, not knowing that we are causing them in the first place. Children come out with memory, they come out with knowledge, they are born with this knowledge. And as parents, we are expected to just help them, protect them, not just physically, but spiritually too. Let them be. And my knowledge of past lives is that there is a process that meticulously chooses where an individual will be born, where an individual, the parents, the environment, the geography, is not all accidental. And we should not look at past lives as necessarily related to our physical families. Not necessarily. It's not like it's exclusive, but it is not necessarily that you are born in a physical family to which you're spiritually aligned. No. Your purpose will determine where you're born. It's not an accident. Maybe you've come to heal that particular family, not because you are related to them in the first place or in the past lives. Maybe you're brought to them for a purpose. Maybe you're an angel host to this family. And that's what most people don't know. That they sometimes want to own these humans who are born into their families. Yes, you want to say something?
I was going to ask you a question, because the world, like you're saying, there's a disconnect between all the stuff that we're going to be talking about in these soul spaces, past lives and karma and all that stuff. There's a disconnect for sure. But I think if there wasn't, we wouldn't be here. Like, that's the reason we're here. All of us, I think, in this room is to reconnect and talk about these things. So if you were a parent and you had a child, what do you do? How do you raise them? How do you integrate their knowledge of their past lives in a way that makes sense? Because, well, like what I was saying before about the amnesia, part of that is a beautiful thing that, it's like a reset, a start over. You get to kind of sculpt your own path with these memories that are just kind of vague and more to like an experiential or feeling level. So just curious your opinion as a parent, what you would do to help a child integrate the past life experience.
Yes, and before you answer that, I want to add to that because I want to hear this part in your answer. Um, because I have heard of children who are like having memories and they'll say, I am Jack. I had an airplane in this year. I fought here or I did this thing. And they're like accurate details. My concern might be if children, it's not that I don't want to encourage them to do it, but like you said, in a safe place, because what if a child says, I'm Gandhi, I've returned, or I'm so and so, I've returned, and then what if they're captured or experimented on to access these things, and then they don't get to have a childhood? So I'm just wanting to know how you think that parents can keep it sacred and safe without having the child feel like, oh, now I have to be Gandhi again. I can't be, baby Bob because I have to be Gandhi immediately. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. That is true. But that is a case by case basis because there is no monolith. in all this. There are some children who are born with more awareness of who they are. And there are those that are just getting bits and pieces. As a parent, we are supposed to be guardians, observers of our children. And I am a mother of 4 children. So I know what I've struggled with is I've I've been in a religious family like most of us, and I know the pain and the challenges I've gone through as a more spirit-filled person, individual within this family construct and society construct. But because I was privileged to decode some of these things from an early age, because I think some of the ones who are going to be at a higher frequency, they suffer a lot as children, as maybe toddlers, 3 years, 4 years. They suffer a lot because the need for the spirit to manifest more dominantly is higher in such a child. And as a parent, we can only learn from those of us who've gone through it to teach others how to handle such children. Because in the physical realm, this is still a child. But how do you allow them to see and experience some of these visions they have, some that may come, as nightmares? Because this child is maybe a 3-year-old baby, toddler, but the spirit or the past life or the reincarnate within this child is an old soul, is aware. So this awareness is struggling to come to bring the child up to par with the purpose. And sometimes that's where also the struggle is. So as a parent, when you know your child has some of these nightmares, how do you make it easy? Talk to them. Talk to your children honestly and say, okay, do you want to live on the light? When you know your child has these experiences, maybe it's not good for such a child to be left with maybe relatives because they won't understand who the child is. Because for you, you're being intentional in raising this child or your children. How many people are doing that? Most people are comfortable to conform to and become the herd, become part of the masses, become the sheep to these churches, to mosques, what? Very many people are comfortable to become sheep. So you can't leave your shepherd child. Spirit-filled people are shepherds. They have a purpose. And that's why the others who are sheep, they idolize past shepherds like Jesus, like Muhammad, because they themselves, maybe that's who they are. And maybe that we should not actually task everyone to be on this path. Maybe that's who they were. They were meant to be followers. And that's why they're very comfortable in that space. Those who are uncomfortable, the neurodivergents, the people who see and have depth cannot be nurtured the same way as those who are comfortably conformists. Well, there are those people who are so comfortable in their followership places. You can't argue with such people because maybe that's who they are. And that's, maybe something we should stop as people who are very spiritually inclined, to think that the masses will think like us. They'll not. Maybe that's who they are. Even in their past lives, they were followers. They were just people who were just following around. And our challenge is that we always seek to show them the mysteries, the wonders, the other realms. And they look at us as crazy people because even in their spiritual memories, in their past lives, this is strange. Okay, you can. You wanted to say
Yeah,
something?
if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like you're saying that the majority of people are, let's say, followers, and they wouldn't understand like an esoteric connection. And I agree with that for the most part. However, what my intention is, and what I would love to see, is an actual curriculum around this for like a psychology class. And I don't think that that's too far-fetched. I could see a world where this is just common knowledge, and I think the world would be a better place because of it. It doesn't mean that everyone can meditate or remember all their past lives and all that kind of stuff, but just a general awareness and understanding of it, I think would make the world a better place. It's a little bit like what Cosmic is saying. It's the child is born and they're like, oh my gosh, I was Gandhi before. And it's like, well, you just have a wild imagination, kid, haha, very, very funny. Or, you're just playing make believe, or you have imaginary friends, all that kind of stuff. How much of that is actual remembering experiences that the child is going through and acting out and trying to integrate? There should be a framework for them to understand that. And then in our adult lives, there should be a psychology around understanding that and helping people work through it. So if I understand what you're saying, people will never, fully be into the esoteric side of things, which is why it's always esoteric. But I could see this being, like I said, a curriculum. And so this is a call out to anyone here in the spaces who would want to contribute to that. Get in touch with me or Cosmic. Like, she's already posted this thing here, this kind of infographic thing. There's stuff like that could be created. I want to be able to provide this for people, and I want to do it through a group effort, collaborative effort to create this. So yeah, go ahead, Cosmic.
Yeah, I agree, man. My mind's going in a bunch of places because, well, I was thinking about that scene in The Matrix at the Oracle's house where the little children are playing with blocks and bending spoons and like levitating stuff. And that seemed like a safe space for the kids to kind of explore and and you know, be celebrated and safe. It's just unfortunate because it feels like that needs to be a thing, but then there's these people in the world. I'm not trying to discourage the idea, but just to be realistic, like there's people in the world who fake stuff for attention. Oh yeah, me too. I'm also, this Gandhi, or I'm also this, that, and then like they're trying to do it to get their ego fed instead of because that it's, you know, true. And I guess that's what's hard about some of this, and maybe that's why um some of the amnesia stuff is important because and I guess my heart goes out to the kids who remember early, because it is important to have parents who respect that and create a safe place for it, and maybe like keep them safe from those who would want to like pry or experiment with this, or who would maybe treat the child differently, because I feel like in a lot of things in life uh we grow into it like as we're ready. And I think it's still important for maybe a baby Gandhi reincarnated to play with trucks and get on a swing and get in the dirt and stuff, and not be like, being looked at, like there's challenges there.
You'd be shocked, cosmic divinity. You'd be shocked. I will share my experience. Like I said, I think the universe knows exactly how you'll be nurtured, and it will try as much as possible to recreate the settings that will be necessary for that growth. Sometimes it requires, if your own biological parents will not, the ones whom you've been born into, will not manage, they'll remove you from them. And sometimes we always think that, oh, these children who are taken to orphanages, those who are adopted. No, the universe, given the chance, will orchestrate the circumstances that are very necessary to nurture this spiritual purpose to its greatest potential. Like I said, as a child, I didn't know why I had all these dreams at 3 years. Dreams, when I'm up in the clouds, like I'm seeing the clouds, like a bird flying. And then I would wake up because I was at my grandmother's place. I'd wake up and ask my cousins, in Africa, where you're an extended family and you're this little human who has these experiences. And you wake up and, oh, you want to share these experiences. You don't know the experiences. As a child, you think it's real. So you're asking these people, oh, do you see these things when you sleep too? Do you see the clouds? And everyone, all the little children are looking at this 3.5-year-old, 4-year-old speak about these strange things. But the universe realized that this kind of discussion, though this 3-year-old me, 4-year-old me was having with my cousins and my little family, the universe realized that, oh my God, okay, this is not the stage. I think we've showed her and she can express what she sees in the night. Okay, how are we going to help her? So how they helped me was making it physical, that my grandmother noticed, that my auntie noticed. You see how the spirit system and the universe can orchestrate all this even in a little girl child. Now, personally, this was my comfort zone. And as a child, I realized I would thrive. Playing was tedious. I didn't want to be falling. I was like a little adult. Not in a bad way. I was a happy child, but I think my spirit, being happy is a mental mind, is a mental state. And as long as your purpose and your reincarnate, your spiritual identity is balanced, this little child will be balanced. If they are not being pushed into an area of indoctrination. I remember my grandfather was a clergy, and prayer was very forced to a point of like there would be uh, uh, consequences for no prayers. So I remember my grandfather would come and all my cousins who had not gone to prayer, they would say, come, you should lie down, you're going to be beaten for not praying. And when he would come to me, he would say, oh, my princess, you also belong to the people who didn't pray. And to me, when he would come to me, he would soften. He would try to appeal to me. And in a funny way, I got some kind of special treatment with, I think, in a way, I cultivated that. So my grandfather, who was a clergyman, realized that I was different. And
And
then
now,
my,
can I jump in just for a sec here? I just wanted to let, because we got a couple new speakers up here. I just want to let Star, Alchemist, and Abhinav know if you have a comment or a question or anything you wanted to mention. I don't want to put you on the spot, so just put a hand up if you do, and we'll get to you in the order of the hand. So yeah, keep going, Nakajima.
so I'm bringing it to the attention that these spirit-filled children already are in a certain process, and there's a system that's already nurturing them, and they are aware. So as parents, we are supposed to let the child be okay. You want to speak? I've seen a hand up. You can contribute.
Oh yes. Hey, I'm Star Alchemist, and yeah, I agree with like everything you're saying, and I want to kind of put like another perspective. I think someone else said it. If he wasn't like if these systems wasn't set up, we wouldn't be here, and that is true with my experience because I was never religious or anything, but once I looked deep into like the religion, that's when I became more, I guess, awake and aware of things. And I'm loving these safe spaces, and and I think now what is shifting is a lot of spiritual people are learning to not be secluded. You know, like oh, get away from the world, get away from people. I think we're trying to integrate with the world because how can we not make a change if we're just, amongst ourselves who feel safe and not into the world where it doesn't feel safe, where we have to apply what we know in our wisdom out in the world. And it's through different things. It's through different avenues. I'm seeing like through art, through music, being on TV. Like you could be spiritual, you could be talented, and don't be afraid to be amongst what you think a system is because it's all layers. The true test is taking this wisdom and applying it to the real world and not like kind of staying in the illusion of it. It's kind of immersed in it. And we've seen people do it. We've seen like they sacrifice themselves to be in this world, but they shine the light and they showed us the way. Is like, can we take the next step and be amongst the world as well and not like seclude ourselves, like, all right, separate ourselves. I think that's where it becomes everything is like one when we out there and, making changes and stuff like that. Yeah, that's one to add.
Okay. Sorry, I came in quite back and to talk about this. Like I said, uh, the experience, because we were had been asked by citizens to talk about, share something about how I remembered past lives and sharing my story, and how children who are inclined spiritually can be helped and nurtured, because we are trying to tell parents, because more humans, children are born every day, and we don't want to repeat the cycle of killing these spirit filled individuals who could maybe help the world in certain ways. Because certainly, at a personal level, my experience, my spiritual experience and reality has been translated in my community. But remember, we have to be safe. If you're spirit filled, if you are bringing a different perspective from the usual global religious narrative, you have to be strategic. You have to be aware. You have to, first of all, know that you have to be safe to impact the world. You cannot expose yourself to everyone. Your family definitely will know this, but it's funny that usually the families of spiritually gifted people are the ones that first reject them.
That's a really good point. I was thinking about the whole Jesus story, Yeshua, whether it literally happened or not, the point to be made here is that he didn't feel understood or known by his family of origin. And that's why when he was told, hey, your mother's outside looking for you, he said, who are my mother and brother and fathers and sisters? They are those who do the will of the Creator. And it's like your spiritual family is a whole different level than your biological family. And like you said earlier, sometimes you are sent, an angel is sent in the avatar to families that are disturbed or blind or whatnot, and they have these like blockages and they've forgotten who they are and why they're here. And so then the calling can be harder because you can feel like I don't know, you can feel like a swan in a pack of ducks, and you can think that you're weird, and it's just because you came to do a different thing in that family. And then the other thing is uh there's another story in the Bible that would be a good thing, a good parable to learn from, and it's where Jesus was saying, you've been looking for Elijah, but I tell you, he already returned, like he already reincarnated, and you didn't recognize him. So the interesting thing about that is, what if this Elijah person, uh, kind of learned some things from his last trip to Earth and was like, next time I come, I'm going undercover because I got some stuff to do and I don't need the judgment or this or that. And so then he learned some spiritual boundaries, so that he's not out there like, hey everybody, this is ego based, it's me, I'm Elijah, see, let me prove it to you, I have these memories. Like that would be ego based. Feels like it might be more spiritually fulfilling and noble to just, like you said, have your private few spiritual family, or maybe your biological family, whoever you feel safe with, to tell them, hey, I'm feeling like this is a thing. Maybe I'm this person, or maybe I've had these other past lives and I'm here to do this time. And then you can feel safe and supported by the people that are meant to be in your life, and not just out by anyone. You don't want to be just drawing attention or drawing the wrong kind of attention, because I really do think some people who become famous for their spiritual gifts, I don't mean everybody, but some people, I think, can get caught up in their head and also kind of lose their flow and lose their connection to source and spirit, because they start to feel like they got to put on a show and like keep it rolling for this public viewing. And I don't think that's really usually what it's all about. So just some words on that. Did you want to say something, Citizen?
Yeah, wow. I mean, there's a lot of things I want to say, um, to everyone's points. But Star Alchemist, thanks for coming up. It's good to hear from you. I liked everything you said, and I think you picked up on what I was saying. And so I'll put it in like a different context. It's like I see a fair amount of tweets about, or people talking about, we're going to this 5D world where everything is just awesome, and it's like this utopia. Nobody has to work, and like that all sounds great. And if that happens, more power to the world. Personally, it's not what I came for. I didn't come to live in bliss world where everything is awesome. That's just me personally. So if that happens, I'll probably be on my way and go somewhere else, because like this is actually what I want to be doing, what I signed up for. And what Star Alchemist, you were saying about integrating the spiritual world into the physical world, to me, that's what it's all about. And kind of to Cosmic's point about like, are you undercover? Are you just, Bob the grocer who works his magic from, behind a cash register? Are you a celebrity? Are you a guru? I mean, it covers the whole spectrum of possibilities. And I think one of the interesting paradoxes is someone like Jesus probably, as far as I know, did not want a religion made out of what he was teaching. And yet, when you're that in touch with the truth and what needs to be said at that point in time, it's like people don't know what to do. They're like, we have to capture and contain all this wisdom, and let's write it down, and let's do all this stuff and make a religion out of it. I don't think that was his agenda. I think he drew the short straw, and they're like, all right, Jesus, go down there and teach this message at this time in this way. And the other thing I just want to mention is that when you start reflecting on your past lives, you may start thinking about your future lives. And when you do, this idea of being afraid of death can go away, and go away completely, to the point where Nakayima, like you were kind of saying, you don't expose yourself, be careful and all that. Like, that's all true. You should be wise and you should step carefully. However, I think Jesus knew they were going to torture and kill him. And he's like, well, that's the way to go. This is the way to do it. This is going to make the message stronger. So 2 thumbs up, let's go. And if that's your philosophy, and it's a group of people's philosophy, they're unstoppable, because if they kill me in this lifetime, I'm just going to come back in another one and just keep doing this. And
Yeah,
so,
but real quick on that, what if
yeah,
this is why Jesus made his designer table and chairs as a carpenter for a long time, kind of on the down low? Because if he was out there, like when he was 12, out there talking in the temples and stuff, that created some commotion. And so he kind of seemed to go on the down low for quite a while. And then towards the end of his life, he was like, fuck it. Here we go. I'm going to say all the stuff and it's going to cost me my life. But then he just waited, and he was probably doing his private work, his private missions, like, people know about that water to wine at the wedding. He probably did these little side missions and things kind of on the down low, because he knew it would get him killed if what he was teaching people was how to be sovereign and powerful and remember and spiritually transcend in the dimensions. And I'm pretty sure he knew that the second he started plowing away at the sermons, and he would like walk far away to the mountainsides to do these sermons, so that people would have to kind of work hard to get to him and like pack a lunch and shit, because he didn't want to just be like, I think I'll just go to this open air space, that's a block down from my house. I think he wanted to make it a little hard, because he only wanted the people who should be listening to be listening, and he wanted to have a following of, not for the following, but he wanted enough people to get to hear before he would be in danger and shut down. So I think there is still an element of stay on the down low, play it wise, play it safe, that even Jesus did, because it, according to the way it's written, it seemed like he was only like out in the open, just letting it be known for about 3 years, and then that got shut down pretty quick.
yeah. Let me touch on that, and then we'll get
Can
to
I,
Naka. Oh, sorry,
as you didn't,
real quick,
uh,
Abhinav. I just want to touch on
well,
Cosmic's
just
question.
to add on to what you were saying.
I'm just going to mute you for a sec there. I just want to touch on Cosmic's point, and then Abhinav, you can jump in, and then
Sure,
we'll get to
please.
Nakajima. I'm not advising everyone go act recklessly because death is an illusion. I'm not saying that. I hope it didn't come across that way. I'm just saying you can reflect on your past lives and know that you have unlimited future lives, and this current life is setting up those future lives. And you should I think I can make a blanket statement. You should always act with wisdom, as much wisdom as you can muster. And if that involves laying low and doing things in the background or being a public figure, I don't know. It's up to everyone to make that decision. What is your mission? How are you going to be most effective? What do you want to do? And, you know, I imagine Jesus for most of his lifetimes just had a family, lived his life, did his thing, you know, made contact with a handful of people and alchemized them. And then this one was where he stepped up into the spotlight, and he still did it with wisdom. I just wanted to make that clear. You know, it's just a freedom or a liberation thinking about these things. It lets your mind be free, and when you're free, you're much more powerful. So yeah, Abhinav, make if you want to make a comment, and then we'll get to Nakayima.
Oh no, no. Just I was just wanted to add on to you. Even I'm working on a curriculum, right? So I probably feel many of you are not from India. So I come from India, and as someone was saying about Jesus, so all these things and about talking about past life, I personally met around 3 or 4 people who have shared their life story of their previous lives. So when you come to India, I can probably make you people meet to some people who have lived for more than 100 and 200 years, and they are living here. So like just wanted to add, like you were working on something like on a curriculum. So we can definitely work out on the curriculum and all the knowledge that we are talking about is already present here. I'll share some examples of that, which you can check on YouTube also. So there was this yogi called Neem Karoli Baba in Kenchi Dham, right? You can note down the name. You can check on YouTube also. So he talks about Jesus. He talks about Muhammad also. Now, if I have to talk about his things which he used to control in a human body, he used to stop rains. He used to transfer from water into petrols. These are the magical things which he was doing, and he was unknown probably from the world, and even he never talked about religion. So one thing which someone said here, that everyone is one, so there's no point of religion as such that we are talking about, because God is one. If you research about atma, which is called as soul, there's a Paramatma, which is called as, which we refer as a God. Maybe Jesus for you, maybe Muhammad for a Islamic country, and maybe Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Hindu. So there's a Atma inside us, which is called a soul. There's a Paramatma, then which we need to connect, and then each everything about this connection is present here. We need to get to them. We need to tell the world that this is how we can do, but for that we actually need to be elevated to a level that we can actually practice that. So there are a lot of people who are actually practicing them, and I would definitely like to connect with you, Citizen. I can share you videos. I can take you to the people who have lived for more than 250 years and are living in Himalayas right now. They can do everything, whatever you want to say. They know everything. They know about futures, but they cannot tell you everything because they have a different whole perspective. And what I want here was very rightly, I'm very impressed by you. We want to do something because this world is going mad, and there's a religious injection that is getting injected by the people. See, if you're born in a Christian family, so you get an injection of Christianity. If you're born in a Muslim family, you get a injection of a Islamic culture. You're born in a Christian, you are getting an injection of a Christian. This is totally dumb all shit, right? God is one. There's process which is mentioned everywhere. So whenever I see this all this thing, so when you go out of this chat, go and search once. If you can note it down, please note it down. Kanchi Dham. It's in Nainital, India. Nainital. Kainchidham. That's where Mark Zuckerberg, that's where Steve Jobs came in, stayed there for around 20-25 days. Zuckerberg also, Julia Roberts will say there are a lot of people who came and took the knowledge they appreciated, but unfortunately they did not tell the world how things can change. So very rightly what you are saying, and I'll definitely connect you after this chat. And I'm definitely going to work on this curriculum. Let's share the world something good. And about telling you about this past life, so there's a process called liberation of soul. So if you come to India, so I come from a city of Varanasi, which is the oldest living city on the earth. So here we celebrate death. We actually fire the dead bodies of all the people who died, And after 14 days, there is a process called liberation of soul, which is called as Pitar Dosh. So what happens to the people who get into past life or who gets into rebirth? Any soul which is seen a death, uncertain death, and which is not got liberated will definitely come back into a body. And there's a process which is called as Pitar Dosh. You can search on YouTube. So why this comes in and how this comes in is because of the natural power that is within you. And as someone was like saying that you need to take care of the child. No, no, not at all. You don't need to take care of any child. Everyone is being taken care of by their own karmas, and they have their own set of lives. They have given brain. The only thing is the activization of the brain that we have, and that can only happen when you get to meet right people. And everyone is present here, everyone is live here. It just you need to connect, you need to come out of your daily lives, and everything is there. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Abhinav. That was fantastic. And yeah, we should definitely, sorry, Nakim, we'll get to you in just a sec. That was just wanted to appreciate you for coming up and saying all that. Yeah, I mean, there's so many people, they're 200 plus years old. They're just living, doing their magic. I think they're the ones who taught Jesus, and they continue to teach this message just quietly. And so, yeah, that's an interesting point. And then putting together some sort of curriculum, like there's nothing new under the sun. We're just trying to maybe repackage it and put in a way that's most palatable and easy for, let's say, the Western world to digest. So yeah, go ahead.
I was sharing before, like I said, the purpose will always come through for an individual, especially children. The purpose will make the circumstances. And in my case, it doesn't mean that you don't struggle. You struggle because sometimes when they realize that kind of environment is not good for you, they'll yank you out of it and take you to, maybe a certain school. You'll change schools because maybe there's an individual they want you to meet there. You could actually, your circumstances may be changed just because the spirit process knows that there's a person E at a certain location who you will not meet in a certain area. So they'll create chaos, even if they have to create chaos, for you to be taken there. So that maybe you've gone to this school as a 7-year-old, but the purpose is for you to meet just one person. It may take 4 years for that person to manifest. But like I said, if we trust the process, like Abi was saying, no, we're not saying that we are saying that we have to be intentional in life. We should not live life accidentally and let our children be an accident also. We allow the dangers that we faced. And when we know better, we also expose our children to the same. No, we should not. Because, like I say, you say people get injections. There is overdose of these religions. And sometimes they numb and kill the purpose. And they confuse the child, the minds. And that's why we are seeing a lot of mental disturbances. Because most people have been de-aligned. And they need to be realigned to who they are. So I'll just say, even without saying, I've lived my truth, especially within my family. But like I said, the persecution within my own family, my goodness, it's a different level. If it was at different times, like the Jesus times, I would also have been crucified. But it's because we live in a different era where people sometimes cannot take the law into their own hands. But there are so many sacrifices that would be happening, crucifixions, if the world didn't have laws in place now. So, but even with that, I realized, when you read my profile and they say reincarnate, royal priesthood, yes, My ancestry and my spiritual line is in the royal priesthood, where in Africa, there would be priests who would advise or prophesy or bring prophecies to kings and chiefs. So I belong to that line. So because I knew I was getting all this information from my spirit guides, I asked them, I said, you know what? It's no longer possible. We don't live in that world anymore. The kings have been replaced. Kingdoms have been replaced by countries, by nations. They are presidents. How relevant am I? What am I going to do? You're giving me messages that I should give the president. I should give maybe to the first lady. You know what they did? I said I challenged them. And that's why I tell you, for me, I've been intentional, living my spirit purpose. And then I said, okay, now that the vantage point of prophets, like the prophets Elijah, the pharaohs, like even the pharaoh would call their diviners to tell them things. Nowadays, those roles have been replaced by the clergy. Rome, Mecca, these religions have occupied those spaces. Oh, there is a reverend, there's a pastor who and who. They've already appointed themselves in these spaces. Whether rightly or wrongfully, they are occupying them. So if your purpose is to serve at that level and talk to people, talk to nations, those spaces have been like, you know, aggressively dominated. So I had to go back to my spiritual realm and say, let's manifest my purpose to fit into the current narrative. If I have a message for the president, elevate me to a level where I'll be able to speak to the president. And it happened. I've been a senator in my country for 15 years. I just left it because now the purpose, I think I'm going to a different season. They've told me now you have a different vision. And maybe that's why I'm engaging more on spaces like this. But I met everyone who was at that level because I allowed that manifestation to be. I live my truth, not somebody's truth, because I stay in the lane of my purpose. Like I say, I'm in the royal priesthood. I'm not a healer. I can't bring people and say, oh, you know what? You're suffering from this. No, that's not my purpose at the spiritual level. Mine is to talk truth to power. And I manifested that. And now, after I manifested that, not because I went around and told people, oh, you see, this is who I am. No, I allowed spirit to manifest it so that I was in an office that was measurable or commensurate to the purpose for which I was created.
I think that's powerful, beautiful, amazing. I love it when you share these kind of things because you're sharing about how to be who you are and you radiate this essence of who you are. You don't go out there trying to make it happen. It's just unmistakable. When you walk in a room or you're speaking, people feel your presence and your calling, and you walk in it and you flow in it. And it just, I love that your grandmother and your relatives recognized you at a young age and protected you and guided you along in your calling. I think you're a powerful, beautiful example of how it's done rightly and profoundly, because you have spoken with presidents and you've sat on seats of power because you're making a difference and you're making a huge ripple effect throughout time and space, and you're doing what you were born for. And I love you. I'm inspired by you. I love what you're sharing because there's not many people that I know who have a story like yours where they were properly nurtured and they believed and it manifested all this greatness, and yet you're willing to, be guided to a space like this to share, and inspire others. So I just wanted to thank you.
Now, when it was time, when I was about to leave political office, because most people didn't understand me in the political space. Everyone, including the president, who in a certain way, because I became like a spiritual advisor to him, and he wanted to work with me, but that was not my purpose for me to be minister. It wasn't my purpose. Actually, I came to India for the India-Africa Summit. That was there in 2007. Yeah. I came there and I was hosted in the State House. I met Sonia Gandhi when we went for that state dinner. So I've been to all spaces, not because I'm very powerful, no, because that's the purpose for which I was created, to speak to leaders, to speak to, like there were prophets, like in the yester times would speak to kings and tell them what you're doing. You should do this right. And this is not good for the people. And that's why even in the Senate where I was, till last year, till 2021, I would speak and everyone would say she's strange, because my purpose was not to belong to the political class. And that usually, I was always very controversial. But towards the end, and when I was being told, yes, we are serving, like we are keeping you in this space for just these 5 years, 2021, we are done. We are done. It's because they don't have vanity. My spirituality is not like does not crave that power. But I was given the power. Because being, and towards the end, people unanimously, anonymously would come to me. They're individuals who were not in my space, who were not privy to who I am as a Nakaima. Nakaima is a title. Who were not privy to my Nakaimaship came to me, and I would be in a public space, maybe at a conference center. And somebody just gets up, walks to my table, and tells me, Nakaima. So the spirit started manifesting my real self because of the season I was entering. And people would have dreams about me, not about me as an individual, because I had a title as a political leader, but they would dream me in the spirit realm, and they would approach me physically. And instead of addressing me by my name and title, they would address me by my spiritual deity name. And
Hey,
then I would,
can I jump in real quick here? Oh, sorry. I just wanted to I thought maybe you're done with that point. I just wanted to see if Star Alchemist wanted to comment on anything you're saying, or just had a different point, and then we can get back to you after that.
I just wanted to add what you were saying about the death and understanding, like the whole point of understanding death, the past lives, the Akashic records. It's all for you to drop the fear of this like illusion to not go for your purpose, or even the subtle little things. Because what I noticed was on my journey, I kind of went from skipping over the little things, like the mundane things, and try and go to the big things. Like, let me do these big things, and I'm not fear of doing the big stuff. But when I dropped, but it showed me when I dropped down to, oh, are you an Do you know how to be in a relationship with someone? Do you know how to connect with people? Do you know how to set boundaries? Do you know how to do the little things first? Are you afraid of that? Are you neglecting those little things? Because sometimes we could go to the big and then kind of disassociate ourselves from the little things. And that's what taught me on my journey to know how to connect, how build relationships. Like she was saying, like she built relationships with people and she was connecting with people. And it's like dropping the fear of, you know, talking to a woman or going on a date or going to this place or trying out these little things or having fun. And the whole like experience is like everything's just an experience. So the past life deaths, it all teaches us that it's all experience. No matter if you at the cash register at McDonald's, you're changing the vibration over there. If you're well aware of who you are, you could affect the people in that store just by relating to them, by talking to them and speaking to them. So no matter like what you're doing, like you don't have to do because everyone has a spiritual contract. Some people are supposed to be like in a coffee shop or the bookstore or scattered around. Like we're not all supposed to do everything like the same. And you have your own effect on people who you touch, like in the space or on Facebook, on YouTube, or anywhere. Like when your family, you could change. Like if we're like so creative and knowing our power, we could go in our family, in our dynamic, and alchemize and change the whole construct in there. Like when we like really focus on ourselves and not try to force people to understand us. When we get more understanding and kind of drop like the illusion of things. I don't like to say ego, but just dropping certain things about ourselves that we hold ourselves so high that we can't go low. Sometimes we gotta like meet in the middle. Like don't put yourself in the pedestal because I'm like don't put me in a pedestal or don't even lower me. Like I want to see you eye to eye. Like we're eye to eye right now. We're relating right now, and I think the more we relate to people and like traveling, I think is the biggest teacher. I don't think it could be books, but it could take you so far. Is going across the country and seeing what's going on and experiencing it, and not just looking on TV or what someone is feeding you. It's actually going out there in the trenches and seeing what's going on. And that was what I had to say.
That was so beautiful, and that was so important to be said. I mean, wow. Yeah, it's about being guided because everybody is needed in different places in different ways, and if everybody was holding the frequency on the mountaintops with the monks, nobody would be out going to the other places that need it. And it's just it's amazing. I like to think about spiritual topics in a way with animals. And when I think about like animals and insects and trees and mushrooms and just all these different types of creation, they all have like a super important role. Like worms create oxygen tunnels and things in the soil, and like just everything is so like integrated and interconnected and beautiful, like dynamic way that works together. And so when we judge ourselves or think like, well, because I remembered this amazing past life, therefore I should probably write a book or be out there talking and being known, like it's not like that. It's about being where you're called to be, whether that's at McDonald's, as much as I'm not a fan of the place. If that's where you're called to be, you should go there. And the magic really happens when you're right where you're guided to go, because it's about the journey. It's not really about the place. And just being who you are, like you said, when you're around people and talking eye to eye, I like to think about this thing. I had this life coach from India, and she would always tell me to speak my truth. And the way she described it was really profound for me, because when you speak your truth to, say, family of origin or people who you know might be closed minded or scared or think you're weird, or just think that outside of the box things are scary or weird, when you speak your truth, you can find a way to do it that doesn't scare people actually and doesn't offend them. You could say something like, the way I see that topic is like this, and if they say, "Oh my god, that's weird," um that's their issue. As long as you said it respectfully, we don't have to convince people to think or feel the way we do. I mean, I didn't used to think or feel the way I do now. I used to be very religious and think a very certain way. And so to be able to approach people in a way where we can speak the truth, our truth, kindly and respectfully, and maybe in a way that's not abrasive, it is very key to helping everybody, feel um I guess feel loved.
Yeah.
I really like a couple points you made there, Cosmic. I just want to touch on a couple things. One, Star Alchemist, I liked everything you just said. It's like, I think we get into this mindset of like, we need to be Gandhi, like you were saying, or Jesus or whatever. And yet really the the true spiritual path, you could say, is in the details. It's in the relationships you have, in the boundaries that you can create, in being able to speak your truth, like Cosmic is saying. It's all wrapped up in that. It's like they're fractals of something much bigger. It's all there. They're all like, all the jewels are just sitting there right in front of you. And so I think that's something that I wanted to reiterate and something to think about. It's like, um, I do believe that, let's say Jesus, most of his lives, he was just like a good human being living in this world, his different rebirths. And then, the one that we think of him, there's an expression, accumulating merit. It's like you accumulate all this merit through these different lifetimes, and they don't have to knock your socks off and like change the world in that way, even though you are, and you're changing yourself, and you accumulate all this, and then you can express it however you want. So those little things, that, like, boundaries, that's one, we're going to get into in one of these soul spaces, I think, in a couple weeks. Spiritual boundaries, emotional, physical, all that stuff. That's all part of it. It's all like a fractal of this higher spiritual stuff. Um, yeah, I can't remember the other point. I just wanted to touch on that. I do want to say hi to Prayars, who's on the stage. If you have anything to comment or question or anything, just throw a hand up and we'll get to you, Prayars.
Hello. Yeah, what can I say? There is people, more than one people recognize, remember lives, the same life. Like there are multiple people remembering the life of Napoleon. So I wonder how is that working? They did research, and yeah, they were telling it in very detail. All the different people would say very detailed things about the life of Napoleon, which was only could remember if you are very close to him or himself.
That is fascinating. I was just having a thought earlier that I forgot till you said that. What if a person or a spirit can bilocate on the same planet and come through two people? I mean, that would be interesting. Or it could be like you said, that these are two very close friends remembering close things.
Well, I can relate to that, what Priyaris has said, because one of the people, like, and Star Alchemy, I'll just say this: your purpose is what determines what your journey will be, because there is no single journey. And to admit that is the beginning of like rising to who you are created to be. I don't think that any path is comfortable. Oh my God. There is no glory in this spiritual realm, especially when you live in this physical world. Like I say, you'll be misunderstood. As somebody who was in politics high up there, my spirit guide would tell me, just work with children. So my time would be spent in the very slums of my city, working with poor. And I didn't find like it was my purpose was actually, I felt like claustrophobic being at rallies, political rallies, like being celebrated as a politician, who I was not. Remember, I went there for a purpose, not to do politics. I went there so that I could have information given. Can you imagine how many people have access? We are on this space. There are some things that our leaders are doing wrong, but there are people with knowledge who've been called to this world to do exactly, or maybe to give this information to such people. How do they reach them? Do they have access? No. But these people continue to make legislation, even in their ignorance. They are making legislation, they're impacting lives, they are making policies, they're in charge of the economy, they're in charge of the environmental laws. So, my goodness, it's important that more spirit-filled people, individuals, enter that space. Then there would be legislation that is good for humanity, that is good for the world, and good for the continuity of everything that we hope for. The issue of two past lives coming through. In Africa, by the way, a deity is a reincarnate. They don't inhabit one person. It's like Jesus. Most people say they've seen him. The other one will experience him differently. The other one will experience him differently because the spirit or the figure of Jesus occupies a very, very high realm because the reincarnation, and you know why in the Bible they say he was, he is, and he will be? That's what the spirit world is. It was, the spirit was, the spirit is, the spirit will be. It's not very particular only, or it's assigned to Jesus only. There are many spiritual figures at the level of Jesus. But the narrative has tried to erase the other experiences. And that's why we are called on this space to manifest and represent the alternative that's being deleted. The spirit has refused to be deleted and confined into the main global narrative of Abrahamic faith. And I'll show for an example. One individual who approached me, it was a very, very big gathering. There was a national figure who had died, and we were at a burial. And in Africa, burials can have like 10,000 people. If somebody important dies, 10,000 people will gather to bury this one individual. So we were at this burial, and this person who was in charge of protocol had never seen this man. And it was a Muslim person who had died. So women sit alone and men sit alone. But this man crossed over from the side of men and approached me and knelt down and said, Nakaima. I said, okay. He said, you don't know me. This is my card. He was the chief of protocol. for government in the Muslim functions, public functions. So I was shocked. Then he said, I was picked. So I called him. And then we met at a major hotel in the city. And I said, okay, how come you approached me? How come you addressed me as Nakaima? He said, because my purpose for the last 20 years, you'll see more like me. I have been on the search for Nakaima. And for the last 15 years, I've been showed different individuals who represent that spirit. So I'm coming to Reamis, who say Napoleon, if people appear different times. So he said, but I would approach those people. And then after a while, when I go back, my deities tell me, yes, you've seen, yes. That also is like a representation of Nakaima, but you've not met the one. He said, they showed you to me 5 years ago, but I was not allowed to approach you then. I was shown. But today, I didn't know you were here, but suddenly I got a message and said, you can go to her now and introduce yourself. The spiritual realm is so amazing if we allowed, if we explored and be true. Being true is a personal thing. Your truth is measured by your purpose, how you live your truth. You cannot fake it. If you fake it, it's you who will be burdened. Because it's like you fake for yourself. Because it's personal. It's your journey. So your truth first starts with you. Are you being true to who you are? Are you being true to your purpose? Or you are jumping, around, trying to, pick everything that does not represent what your purpose is. So I know prioris, yes. There are different individuals in the physical realm who can simultaneously experience a past life. And sometimes past lives don't choose to be reincarnated, but maybe they've come back to share something. But then there are those that choose to be reincarnated. But even when there's a reincarnate, it does not stop other people from experiencing these past lives or the same past life.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in there real quick. Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, you're clear.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Praris's point. I don't know that there's like an answer. Like there may not just be one answer for that question. And I think that's part of the mystery of it. And it's part of like why it's useful to talk about all this stuff, because trying to unravel what that means for someone's lives, it's like we were talking about the kid who might say, oh, I was Gandhi in a past life. Well, what does that mean? What do those memories actually mean? Consciousness is vast, and there's a lot of overlap, and it's not well defined like we think it is. With this individual identity and these experiences, it's much more messy and convoluted. So I think it's worthy of thinking about. And I don't know that there is a specific answer. I did just want to invite anyone else up on the stage who might want to chat. We got a few speakers up here. If anyone else wants to come up, and for everyone on the stage, I'm just curious if there's any Star, I know you had your hand up, so feel free to get to your other point. But I do just want to know if anyone has any specific, let's say, past life experiences, remembrances, anything that they might want to share. Please do. But go ahead, Star.
Oh, I could share my past life because I had a past life regression. Um, and I wanted to touch on the like I don't know if I touched on this, like, some people, like, I chose to come back here, like, on my own. Some people didn't choose, and that's uh like a discussion on its own where some people seem forced or some people choose, and that's how we get like kind of attached to certain things. But my my past life experience was I was a woman in a past life, in one of my lives, where I was all about, like, I was for the ears, I was servicing men and stuff like that for money, and I would kind of ignore my family, and I would do a lot of things for money. Like, everything was money, myself, not thinking about others, and me focusing on work. I actually didn't. I destroyed the relationship with my child, and during my work, I even was killed by who I knew was my father now. So that whole lesson brought me here to not even worry about or put focus too much on the money. Like, if I go after money now, I'm doing myself a disservice. So in this lifetime, I'm more about serving people and helping and connecting and not being selfish. And even like integrating with my family and not ignoring those things. So we gotta like take those soul lessons and follow that with past lives. So that was one of my past lives.
That's powerful. So, did you feel like you had to work through some forgiveness with your dad?
Yeah, because in this one we didn't have like a good relationship. Like in the beginning, he's like he's like aggressive and controlling, and I did not like that. Like, he would control like his other kids and stuff like that, and we didn't have like a good relationship. And I chose, even as a child, I would like go to his house like on the weekends. And one day I was like, I think I was like 8 or 9. I was like, I did not want to go there anymore because it just didn't sit well with me. I was like, there's something. I know it was just a lot of abuse, a lot of um, things that didn't resonate with my soul. Like, myself said, get out that situation. So I'm glad I kind of disconnect, but I connect with him now. But I healed that regret. I healed that holding him hostage for, oh, I didn't have a dad. It was like saying, like, wait, it kind of made me better for that to happen because I saw his other children, they went the other way when I went, left. Like, they went right, I went left. And we, came out how we were supposed to come out. So I just was thankful that I got out and was able to experience something I needed at that time. So I didn't have no regrets.
Wow, does anybody want to talk about um I don't know, maybe how when you first start thinking that you're remembering a past life, whether it's through a dream or a meditation or having a session with maybe a therapist or shaman or something, how maybe talk about how that feels when you kind of feel like you're in a little bit in two worlds and you're curious, like, what is that, like, what is the reason for remembering these things, and if it's been a struggle or if it's just made your life feel more interesting and dynamic and colorful, because for me, I feel like I've gone through a lot of the phases, maybe even several times, that were in that little integration wheel diagram that's at the top. And when I get to feeling more and more layers of peace and acceptance about the different lives and what they might mean and everything, it's like my life in this so-called present moment feels more colorful and like the kaleidoscope. It just like got all this dimension and color and wonder and intrigue. And I'm wondering how other people are processing, because I know for some people, and I would say some for myself as well, but for some people it can feel traumatic, or maybe they even feel like, uh, well, I liked that life better, or I remember living on another planet and I liked it better. And maybe we can sometimes fantasize about the good old days instead of realizing that we can create some good old days here as well. And that, you know, does anyone have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm laughing because you kind of took my point at the end there. That's exactly what I was going to say. Um, some of these concepts get thrown around like star seed, and one of the definitions I've heard is, you feel different. You don't feel a place here on planet Earth. And when I hear that, I think, is that like an excuse in a way? Like we all have to socialize and be present in the world some way. And to just say, oh, I don't feel different. I feel different. I'm a starseed. It's like, well, okay, maybe that's true. But I think you have a responsibility to, kind of like what we were talking about before, make your message resonate and be a powerful, impactful person in the world. And I think it's a similar trap with some of this past life stuff. It's like, oh, I used to live on Bliss World where we just had telepathy, and so I can't stand it here where we have to communicate with our mouths. Like, this is so lame. I don't want to do this. And that may be true. Like, there's a lot of truth to this. This is actually Bitcoin Bum's question, and Cosmic, you just hit it. It's like, do you have past life remembrances on other planets and different dimensions and different types of bodies and things like that? We think it's just, I was a farmer on Earth, n number of lifetimes, but it's not really like that. You can be having, like you're saying, bilocation and different types of physical bodies or non-physical bodies. It's like, it's wild. And so you might have a stronger resonance or pull in one of those. You see some of these shows, it's like, well, I'm a Palladian, I'm a Arcturian or something. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess you are. I guess we're all these types of consciousnesses, and you might have a resonance with that. I guess I'm just saying it can be a trap. And I think, Cosmic, your point is that you have to transcend it at some point. You have to come to terms with it and live in both worlds. You have to have the best of both worlds, let's say. Does anyone want to comment on that or share, an experience?
Yeah. Like I said, it is a delicate balance because you are present in this world. You're the one who has the task of aligning all the past lives to your present, because that's the reason you were born. That's the reason you manifested as a human in this world. For those past lives to make meaning through you. And for me, I think the challenge comes when people don't know how to engage with that. Like for me, for example, all my past lives have been in Africa. All my past lives have been represented by very powerful entities, women entities in the African leadership trajectory. And that's why I asked them, I said, okay, if there's a purpose for which I'm reincarnating and these past lives are like summed up to make a purpose for me to live, then make it worth it. because I can't carry all this information for nothing. It has to mean something. It has to be relevant. It just it's not a game. Or otherwise, leave me alone to live like anybody else. Oh, sometimes I get aggressive. I say, this can be a joke. This can be a game. I can't get all this knowledge. I can't get all this experience, all these past lives in me, and it means nothing. And that's why, like I said, this time it has come full circle because one, I'm going through a very, very different season. And I'm engaging, by the way, because for almost 20 years, I was in the political space doing the purpose of what they were telling to me. And like I was a divergent. I wasn't conforming to the political narrative because that was not my purpose. I went to school, and unfortunately, in Africa, we have a lot of spiritually gifted people. In the African sense, hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, a phone had come in. So, in the African space, if you have Western education, if you have a degree, if you have a master's like me in public administration, it's frowned upon for you to be a spiritualist. Most of our spiritualists don't attain Western education because our spirit realm in Africa realized that this was dangerous, a danger. Actually, most of our spiritualists are people who were, their spirit guides refuse them to go to school. They block them. You know why? It's because our spiritual collective has been traumatized by Western education, by our contact with the West through colonization and what? So our spirit memory is very hesitant to come into contact with everything that represents Western civilization. I don't know if you understand that. So those people who have Western education and have attained a certain degree of like Western education, they frown upon those ones. It's a divide on the African continent. It's a divide. Actually, being educated in the Western sense, university degree, university qualification is at odds with embracing African spirituality or our spirituality. Because colonization made sure that everything that's African spirituality is demonic, is evil, should not be what. And you can only conform by being either a Muslim or a Christian. That's what is allowed. So for me, even to embrace, that's why my family knows and they hide. In Africa, there's a duality, there's a hypocrisy. Most people practice African spirituality in secret because it was taboo by the colonial masters. If you did not profess to be a Muslim or a Christian, you are not allowed social access. You are not allowed certain jobs. So it's been very traumatic. So when I was talking about danger, it's very dangerous in the bureaucracy, in the system that is dominating the world, to be an alternative spiritualist because it is not allowed. It's just now coming up on the continent slowly.
I agree with you. It's really heartbreaking the way that the Africans and the people who are more spiritual in their upbringing and their culture have been suppressed and demonized, and just the whole situation that happened with the people in their country, and with the way that the colonization process happened was corrupt to like kill and shut down many African and Native American voices who were spiritual, these people who had a life of practicing spirituality and being respectful and one with nature and past lives and all this. Do you think that it seems like obviously for control was one thing, because when you're spiritually empowered, you're a very powerful force. So these people who may have not been spiritual and just had some gunpowder and a tool in their belt were trying to use control to silence the spiritual people. And that's why, like with the witch trials, and they burned people at the stake who knew how to heal and cure and use plants and animals and respectful sacred ways. So they demonized it so that the people who were buying into this mind control spell of religion would also become afraid and avoid those who were practicing the original sacred sciences that were that are the original source creation, um way of life. And so it is very heartbreaking, and that's another reason I'm grateful that you're speaking up, is because that isn't meant to be. It's meant to be that we return to the spiritual roots in a way that's pure. And yet it just feels like, I'm sure you sense this, but like, I'm not trying to judge everybody in certain parts of the world, but in some parts of the world, maybe where I'm from, uh the 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 people are like eating trash. They're not, they don't know how to garden. They're not in the dirt. They're not in the sunshine. They don't know how to properly tend and herd animals in a way that's, loving and natural. And they have lost this a lot of spiritual connection. And there's even counterfeit spirituality going on, and like counterfeit to all the originals. And this counterfeit stuff can look like really shiny and sparkly and very similar to the original, but it feels totally different, has a completely different frequency, completely different type of power and motivation. And then what I'm seeing happen here is that some people who are trying to wake up or experience or remember things, they might meet some of this counterfeit stuff going on, and it's like plastic food out there or something. The experience turns like strange and almost like a detox initiation. I don't know. It's like so much of this culture, I will say, especially in the United States, even though I'm not trying to generalize, it's so like materialistic and still fear based. So cutting through that takes courage and wisdom, because when somebody's in a deep sleep, they don't want to be woken up with a flashlight in their eyeballs or water splashed on their face. They don't want to be wake up with a loud siren. No matter how true something is, it's like a gentle stirring is going to be a little more effective, with better results. And so I can't imagine how it might feel to be yourself and to be from a country that celebrates and respects and treats as sacred these natural, universal, beautiful laws, and to have to talk to the people who are being raised on fake chicken nuggets, and help them remember their divinity. Like that's quite the labyrinth of an interesting encounter, an interesting thing to take on. And it has to be done like in a very spirit led way, as we've talked about. And again, like the counterfeit programs that run in the counterfeit past life scenarios and stuff, it's uh it's a thing, and it's rather obnoxious. But I guess I get like almost everything that's original and pure, someone tries to come up with some kind of knockoff, some knockoff version to sell on eBay about it. So that's my little rant.
Yeah. Well, maybe somebody needs to speak. We are engaging, and When someone wants to speak, please, I'll put down the mic, but because I get very animated and very happy when I'm sharing such things and when I'm on such spaces, because it is refreshing. It's a happy place for me. And I think, well, other people, please, I don't want to monopolize, but I want to hear from you too.
Yes, thank you, and I'm so happy to have you here. I love you. Inanna, I'm trying to get you as a speaker because I think Citizen was having some trouble getting on here. Um, can you speak?
Is it for me to say something? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm happy to see
What's
you.
poppin', beautiful? What's poppin', citizen? What's up, y'all? I'm just sitting in my car and I'm in my kid's school, but I popped in and I wanted to see what y'all was talking about past lives, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is good, because I was in a meditation, and as we know, the past, present, and the future all exist simultaneously. And so we look at past lives, and this is just a perspective. We look at past life as if it's the past, but it's actually the present. We're living it out in a different way. So a lot of us feel like we've been experienced this or we've experienced that, or we're homesick because we're not in our home planet and everything like that. And girl, you was hitting it because Source was really like nurturing my heart about that, with being in a star seed, how we have this sense of homesickness. And I was like, well, what can be done about this sense of homesickness? Understanding that where we are now, presently, we are home. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, with star seeds and stuff like that. And I'm just saying where I am. This is my feeling. I get offended, right? When I hear them talking shit about planet Earth, like the Earth ain't shit, right? I'd be like, give her your meat suit back then, bitch. You are on borrowed energy. You are borrowing this body. And you walking around here want to complain and shit, talking about the earth is a ghetto. We all a ghetto because we up in here, right? We all are contributing to that energy on while we live in here. So how about we get back to love, because everybody's searching for a home when that frequency of home is unconditional love. When you tap into unconditional love and you walk in that frequency 100%, you won't feel homesick no more. You won't feel like your past was better or your future self was better, because you'll understand that they all right here trying to get our attention to, like sis said, Naka said, use all of that energy in the present moment, right? Whatever you've learned, whatever express that in such a loving way that you will never feel homesick. How dare I, right, walk on planet Earth and act like I don't belong here? I wouldn't be here if I didn't, right?
Girl, I love that you said that. I love you. I love your spicy, happy energy. I love that you said that because it really is a gift to be here. And I personally believe we chose to come here. So to come down here and talk shit on Earth and on the missions we chose to have here in our avatar, that's to like miss the whole damn reason of it all. Like we're not here to just be like floating in a lazy Susan on Lemuria and like having this fantasy idea that there's like that we don't need to do anything, because there's something fulfilling about working and like getting in the dirt and like having these powerful experiences with people of different dimensions and densities, and like doing the hard work and doing the shadow work and like being there for someone who's processing something heavy. Like that's what we came here for. And when we think like, oh, this ain't it, this isn't easy enough, like how ungrateful, like you said.
Yeah, man. And it breaks my heart sometimes when I see it, because a lot of us we have struggled, right? on this planet. But the reason why we've struggled on this planet is because we haven't grounded ourselves here. We haven't taken full responsibility for our home where we live, right? This is our home, you guys. There is no other place in the universe that we are supposed to be but here in the present. Taking care of home. Like, I've learned this about myself personally, that I was going through this whole process of trying to strengthen my psychic abilities and attune my gifts, right? So I was doing more meditation, trying to be more in tune with the mind through meditation. But it was not the meditation that attuned my spiritual gifts. It was the grounding. It was me being at home doing simple ass shit, like making up my bed, cooking dinner for my kids, me stop eating processed food, me eating natural sun fed food, right? Vegetables, fruits, nuts, and grains, me cleansing my body, stuff like that, me going working out, going hiking on a mountain, just being present on this planet where I am doing what I'm doing. That was the most powerful shift that I've had in my life, to be able to just do regular, what we consider mundane things, and it be the most powerful shift in your consciousness that you can ever have. And I think that's what we're lacking right now. We're lacking being grounded. We're lacking connecting to Mother Gaia. You know what I'm saying? We're complaining about being here, but she has never let us down once. Yeah, we might have fallen, tripped, bust some knees, had some scrapes and some bruises and some scratches, and had some things that we didn't like, that didn't feel good. But we are still here to tell the story.
Yeah,
We
I
are
love
here.
that. And you're right. The being grounded in this third dimensional stuff is incredibly spiritual. In fact, it's really important. If you were just a balloon floating off into outer space every other second and no one was holding the string down, no one would be able to appreciate all that floaty stuff. And we'd all be just talking about some weird floaty stuff all day long. It's a grounding it in, like practice. Okay, build a labyrinth, walk it, get down, do your yoga in the grass, make this yummy food for your kids, learn how to plant food. Like that third dimensional stuff is magical, it's beautiful, it's incredibly important, and it's very spiritual. And when people talk shit on 3D, it's the same feeling I get as what we talked about with being on earth. And like it's sad because it isn't true. Like it's all so important. All the dimensions are very important, and when we get imbalanced, it'd be like really focusing in on your crown chakra only, and all your other chakras aren't spinning and they're just like stagnant, and it's like a river. I like to think of the chakras as like spinning wheels in a river for like a water wheel. And you know how they used the water wheel back in the day to create energy, and if your chakras aren't spinning, then it's all stagnant and the river water goes gross. And if you're like, yeah, but cool because my crown chakra spins, it's like that doesn't matter. You're a whole unit, not just one thing. Nobody cares if you have a really cool mind or really cool spiritual talk if the rest of your life is shit and like not resonating. It's not in integrity and alignment. So, yeah.
I was just gonna say one quick sentence that I forgot. And the spirit just said, just say this one thing. We are like a rainbow. Like you said, the crown chakra, the higher spirit, the source, right? And then we're on this third dimension. We are rainbow bridges. We are not supposed to be, we're supposed to be anchoring in source consciousness, source love, unconditional love into the third dimension. And instead of anchoring in the source love to the third dimension, we like rainbow bridges that shit on people. I yield the mic.
Yeah, well, we need to be rainbow bridges that bridge between all the colors and chakras, because a rainbow isn't just the top color. It's not like, oh my God, look at that rainbow. It's violet at the top. Okay, cool. That's one stripe. It's a whole unit. Like, celebrate all the chakras, take care of all of them. Do your work. And if the planets are rainbow chakra planets, then all the different all the different lives we've had and all the different beings from all the colors of the rainbows that are here on planet Earth for this beautiful kaleidoscope experience and the shadow work that needs to take place. Like, we got to celebrate that instead of talking shit on it, because everybody's coming from a whole different angle, and it's all important. So I'm loving that you said all that.
Hey, can you hear me? I was having some technical issues there.
Yeah, it's all good now.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I think I maybe said this in the last space. It's like this is an opportunity that we have. Like, I don't take it for granted that we're here with this level of awareness. I'm not sure that it's always like that. You know, we complain about this intentional disconnection from people in their past lives and this spiritual realm and all this stuff. And no doubt, like, it's a well-engineered system to separate people from that fact. But it could be much worse. We could be in a place where we wouldn't even be able to have these conversations or think these things. And just having that opportunity, it's a real gift that we have. And so, like, this idea of the chakras or the colors, it's like you can lock them in. It's like a frequency or something you can lock into your soul, let's say, and you can take it with you. And if you can have the opportunity to know that and focus on it, it's like you don't have to go through this rainbow bridge process anymore. It's like you just become the rainbow. You become all these frequencies, all these different, let's say, virtuous energies, maybe one way of thinking about it. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo what Anana is saying. Like, it's a real gift to be here, to be able to have this conversation and to have the realization of where we are. You know, things could be much worse from that point of view. So I know it's a struggle, and I know we're all homesick in a sense, but it's a real opportunity here. Yeah, Star, go for it.
Yeah, like me personally, I don't know, I see the good in things. I see the good in Earth. I never thought like, oh, I don't want to be here, or it's like ghetto. It's just understanding why. And I think people don't look over their spiritual contracts, or like they try to figure out why they're here or not, or how it's almost like the see, some people in this some communities, or they look for the savior to save them instead of like being the change. Like how can I make, this better? How can I contribute? How can I give to the universe? Like everybody want to take, like take from the universe, take, but there's a balance of giving. Like, what can I do? What can I be? What can I give to change? And I think we are doing it right now with this space. We're going to continue to do it to make our reality better, because we create our own reality, and we can't forget that we create our own reality as well, no matter like what level of consciousness you are at.
That's a good point. And you know what else too? Like, when people talk about being homesick, I think sometimes it's the last place they lived that they long for. But you know, part of the reason people go on vacations is because they want to explore. And I think there's something powerful about exploring the places out of our comfort zones, because I know whenever I go exploring, even if it's down the road or in another country, I always feel like I come back changed in a way that I wouldn't have if I hadn't left my home. So just to put that out there, Crypt, did you want to share something, or D?
Yeah, I was just absorbing a lot what was said this whole time. I've been really appreciating a lot of the perspectives everyone was sharing, and especially what Star just said. I feel like we get caught up in a lot of things and forget that really service is one of the greatest purposes that we can enact in a sense. But with the talk of the past lives, and all of these ideas of star seeds and indigo childs and things of that sort, the big thing is, what's connected to now. And I feel like a lot of the star seed and that talk of these terms are sort of new age traps in a sense. And not to say that some people are or aren't, but I feel like it's used almost as an ego comforter, to make you feel like you're more advanced than someone else, or you're more evolved and I'm the savior, like listen to me in a sense. And we sort of like to assume a lot of things outside of what we really are. I had someone recently, I was in a bookstore, and I go to this used bookstore quite often. And there was a lady in there, and she was sort of just engaging with people. And she told me, oh, I was a star seed from this certain constellation and region. And for me, it's just like I allow people to say what they want to say, but I was just like, okay, I'm human, you know. And she sort of took offense to it, but it was like you're not accepting who you are. But whether I started on another planet or wherever I was in the past life, the truth is that I'm here right now. What people were saying before me, like I'm having this human experience right now. Like I don't need to assume I was this or I was this being on this other planet or I was a pharaoh or king or ruler in this past life. A lot of it really doesn't do too much for me at the present moment, because if I have problems and patterns in those lives that I didn't work out, those things are existent right now. Like these patterns and all of these things are evident right now. So I don't need to dig too much into the past. I can just become aware of right now. And not to say that some people don't get benefit from it. For me, I just didn't see too much benefit that was coming from my regressions and going into trying to figure out what I was at those moments, because in the totality, my life is an expression of all of this at this moment. Like all I've done, all I struggle with, what I'm talented with, what I exceed are all sort of these expressions of right now. I don't have to feel or assume I was Queen Cleopatra or, a descendant of Jacob or the Elohim or whatever it was if I'm trying to hold this over someone's head. But I do understand that everything exists as patterns of light and information, whether past, present, or future. So sometimes we can align with a certain data set or a certain frequency or a certain vibe that, just resonates so much that we feel we are that. And that's not false at the same time. I heard someone, we're talking about the people that's like, oh, I was Gandhi in the past life. Sometimes we might align with the frequency that, was represented as Gandhi. And if we're all pieces of the whole as this consciousness, we recognize there's no separation between me and you. So yeah, maybe you were or weren't Gandhi, at that same time. And if you align with that, then that's cool. Whatever floats the boat that helps you get in a better aligned position or sort of increases your quality of life, like, go for it. Like whether you assume that there are 7 chakras and you really attune to that and it helps with you, or you think that there are 9 or 10, or in some native cultures they feel that there's 5, whatever really helps you progress. And the progression is evident in now because you will have the representations manifested for you right now. I just feel it becomes an issue when we try to comfort our egos or like say we're better than someone because you're no better or no less than anyone, whether it's good or bad deeds in that sense. So yeah, just thanks for allowing me to share. That was my little rant. Enjoying this.
Hey, Crip, that was amazing. I know I don't think you were here for the whole space. I just want to let people know, I think you basically encapsulated everything we've just been talking about for the last 2 hours. That was beautifully said. I basically agree with everything you're saying. It's like, how do the past lives connect to this life now? If it's, inflating your ego, if it's, something that's like irrelevant. Yeah, I just kind of want to echo what you're saying and agree with what you're saying. It's like you can use the opportunity to lock these things in and make it a part of who you are. So it's like you transcend the actual experience and it just becomes your nature. And so you see the evidence of it everywhere. And, I just want to say hi to Dee as well. Like when I was in, the therapeutic process in the traditional sense, one of the things I learned was it's like you don't really have to go through all of your memories and uncover, what happened to you, because you see the examples of it in your daily life. You say, well, what was your childhood like? Well, what is your present day life like? And that will tell me everything I need to know. And so you see the examples of your past lives in your present life in the external world, like you were saying. Or Star, I think, was saying it's a reflection of your internal world. And so, yeah, I just wanted to echo what you're saying. Cosmic, go ahead.
Yeah, that was really powerful the way you worded that, because it's so true. Like, what would be the point of remembering your past life if not to help integrate you into your current existence? And let me see this thing. I wrote down something you said. You said whatever floats the boat that gets you into alignment. Like, it's more about getting into alignment with who you are, not about like announcing to other people, like, FYI, guys, you're standing in the presence of greatness, because I once was Jesus and I remember that now. So do you remember? Like, what's the point of that? Like, it's yeah, maybe if that's true, it would be most powerful if you embody it, which is what we were talking about earlier. Like, whatever you remember, whether it's true or not. And you also said something cool. You said patterns of light and information. And I love that, because as you know, time is transcended. Then if you're a spirit that incarnates into third dimensional avatars at, you know, in different locations for different purposes, your spirit is enduring. And if your spirit entered an avatar that had such and such experience, that had such and such name that people would recognize, that's fine. But the point is not that you get the glory, or that you feel better than others, or that you get the respect from them. The point is what you're doing with it now. And there's something really beautiful about not needing to, like, it's not that we don't share our stories, because I think they're beautiful to share, but like sharing it for the right reason, for this integration, and being who you're called to be here in the now for the reasons that you chose to be here.
Go for it, D.
What a beautiful space. I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness right now. Thank you all. It's so beautiful. I think all of you just touched
Jesus in
upon,
the house.
yeah, oh my God. I feel like everyone touched upon everything I wanted to say. When someone spoke about grounding, the thing that showed up that came to my head right away, or that I envisioned, was, doing the internal work, like you were saying, citizen, and the reflection within, and then how it shows up externally in front of us in our world. And I think that sometimes that can intimidate or make us feel small in a way, because it's so big outside of us, the things that maybe we have resolved already internally, and it just stops us in our track. And something that Nakai said about, it's dangerous to fulfill your spiritual connection and your shamanic connection, your spirituality from where you come from. And I so related to that for some reason. It just brought up this connection of me. It brought up a memory, actually. I was sitting at dinner one evening with a woman. I was invited to dinner, and she was a shaman herself, and we were looking at each other across the table and having a very in-depth conversation. And then she stops in her tracks and she says, "You were one of them." And I was like, "I was one of them." She goes, "You were burnt at the stake." And I said, "Oh yeah, I know that. I felt that." And so it's kind of like, yeah, now is the time that we need to ground these things and not fear them anymore, and bring out ourselves to this, to show ourselves in a sense where, not to everybody else. It's not necessary for us to show it for everyone else, but within ourselves, and it will translate out into the world. So it was really powerful when you said that, because it really touched something based on my past life, and also something that's happening with me now, because I've worked with people in clinics and things like that, and now that I closed my clinic, I'm online, and now I'm speaking out, I'm speaking in these rooms, and I'm exposing myself more, and it's feeling uncomfortable for me to get out there and share who I am and, share my truth. And it's something that came up so deep for me right now. And so it's a powerful thing when we can ground this and be still in it and feel even the fear and let it work through our body and overcome it so that we can continue to move forward in our own greatness, in our light, and share it with others. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Dee. Yeah, Star, go for it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because you're actually alchemizing your whole experience, and that's what we can learn from every experience, that we're not our circumstances. We can really change it and not be victim to it, and actually face the fears and face what's uncomfortable, because sometimes we can mistake things for alignment and comfortability, and sometimes alignment is being uncomfortable in certain spaces. And once she said she's speaking out, and the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable, the more you feel in alignment. So sometimes we have these deep subconscious programming, and that's where our past lives, that's where a lot of deities, a lot of spirits are like at, is that core of getting to the subconscious and bringing those things up and addressing them and making it change, and not just saying, this happened to me, this happened to me, that, but what are you doing to change yourself? What are you doing to change your circumstances around you? Like, where's the magic? Where's the alchemizing? And I think that's for you, and that's not for anyone else, because you have to answer to yourself every lifetime or every time you transcend. You have to feel yourself. Like, how do you feel yourself? How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself small? Do you see yourself this? It's all how we internalize everything. That's the real judgment. We judging ourselves. And sometimes we don't want to face our own judgment. Sometimes we like, okay, let me lie to myself. But let's change it. Let's do something about it. Instead of lying, this is the truth now, but this is not going to be my truth tomorrow. Your truth can change. Your circumstances can change. It's been shown every time. The whole world changes. Nothing's the same. Everything has transits, currents. You can look at the charts. You can look at astrology. Everything changes. Nothing is the same. The weather change. So don't think what you're in now, like your circumstance now, is going to be tomorrow or the next day. It's like, okay, it's now. Oh, what are the solutions? What can I do now to change it? And that's
I
my
love
word.
I love that, and I love how you said that sometimes being in alignment involves being uncomfortable, because when you're doing alchemy and transmuting energies, and when you're in a transition, like you said, with nature, like, it's not, like fall is kind of a transition season, even though it's its own season. So maybe that's a good analogy, because fall is not hot like the summer, and it's not cold like the winter, and it's a little bit of both, but it's its own thing. So sometimes being in alignment involves being uncomfortable and having some, shadow work or uncomfortableness to work through, and it's meant to be like that. I really like that you worded it that way.
Oh, I think Nakayima had hand up. I wanted to pose a question to the group that's in the chat there, but I'll let Nakayima go ahead first there.
Yeah, like I said, right now, when we connect on these spaces, we should have kind of a an organized work plan the way you're talking about. Yes. Cosmic Soul Poet, I asked you last week, and I was looking forward to this day to have uh, this space. But now that is one of the actionable points we have, that maybe we are having this space specifically, and dedicated to the spiritual realm discussions, and that's an actionable point. Then, citizen, you talked about having, contribution, being present or contributing to some kind of curriculum or some kind of online course, whatever it could be, that we could all be like maybe contributors to. That is an actionable point. Now, how about going forward? How are we looking at having some meetings organized in the future? And for those who can travel, those who can, come together, and maybe some retreats with others who can, those who can come to these spaces, those who want to learn, because they'll be teachers. I believe some of us are older, some of us have this experience, some of us have lived this life, both the spiritual and the word. And we want to impart some of this knowledge to those who are receptive to it. And maybe this is the season for which it was, because I've been asking. Right now, I'm into a stage where I'm like, no, I've left public life. Of course, they're asking me to stand again, but of course, they can't know why I even was in the political space in the first place. I know myself, and I know I was in it for the spiritual purpose. Now I'm in the season where I've been shedding off. You're talking about seasons. I've been shedding off. I'm going through a divorce right now. It's not traumatic, but I think it was something that was heavy on me, because my husband, I think, was more comfortable conforming to the religious narrative, and that has always been our problem. And I think I told him, okay, now I think he's free and I am free. I don't look at it as something bad, but I think I'm shedding that off too. It has been a weight on my journey. The other issue is like my whole family, my whole family has disowned me, because they think I'm publicly now coming out with this ashaming spiritual exposure. And I think they are disowning me, which is okay. I'm shedding them off too, for me to be much more to my purpose. Maybe they need to be shed off. I don't think that a snake or any reptile being in one space, shedding off their skin is comfortable. No, they have actually to be vulnerable to shed off skin. So I'm shedding off some skin right now. And when I was asking in the spiritual realm in my meditation, I say, okay, what does this all mean? Show me. And I need to do some of these things. I need to be very active at the physical level. I'm used to being up and down and what. And I said, okay, you are refusing me. Personally, I've never been free outside my purpose to do things. I've never been free to say, oh, I'm very good at business, let me go into business. No, I've been conformed to what aligns to my purpose. So now that was done, I was asking, what's next for me? So I got this dream where I was being taken to a major newspaper company in my country. It's called the New Vision. And he said, now you're going to work in the New Vision. These metaphors in the dreams you get. So when I woke up, I realized they were saying, you are now, going to manifest a new vision of yourself. This is new. This is the new vision. And when I was about, asking other things and what, I got another dream when I was asking, okay, now there's this thing I have to work on. There's this thing I have to work on. And then they showed me somebody who was like a minister in my country, and it's called Masiko. Masiko in my language means hope. So they were saying, please keep hope as a banner, as a light in your life. Don't agitate unnecessarily. So sometimes when we live in the physical, the agitation and the stressors of the world affect our balance. And sometimes they have to withdraw you from all that to realign you, to withdraw you from all that. Because at political level, I think I would not have been able to do the divorce. It would have been like, oh, why are you divorcing? Oh, the papers, the what? But now they needed me to come out and shed off all this unnecessary baggage in peace, outside the public limelight, outside it, for me to be able to be myself without worrying about, oh, I'm in public office. Oh, the newspapers have published this. Of course, they published a lot last year when this all started. But I'm at, it's funny, I was in court in my country this year. And, courts of law, they are very hypocritical. Do you know they are laws made by man, legal laws by the Constitution and acts, but then they ask people who go to courts to swear by the Bible or the Quran. Do you know how hypocritical that is? They're not going to use any verses from those books to decide the case or determine the case. No. But then why do they ask people to swear by those books? Do you know how eliminationary that is? And I went to my country, and because I was outside public office, when they asked me, they said, oh, can you swear by any, the Quran or the Bible? I said, no, I don't believe in those books anymore. I
Hey,
don't.
can I jump in on there real quick? I know this going into the nature of these spiritual books and why we swear on them in these courtrooms and all that. That's maybe a different discussion. I just to your the point when you started there about how do we actually corral this information and what do we do with it? We're definitely in the beginning stages of that, and just getting it out there like we're doing, like Cosmic intends to have these soul spaces room every Thursday. It's a good place to start talking about this. I guess the way I see it, there's probably two ways I would do it. One would be almost like a Wikipedia type curriculum where anyone can just go on, edit, add to, and iterate it with a group mind over time. And then if people wanted to actually, because I want to have a website where all this stuff will be, and if people actually wanted to charge and make money for their courses, I think that would be excellent. I think that'd be great. And I would help someone develop course materials that could be put up there. So if anyone has interest in that type of thing, please DM me or Cosmic privately. And it's absolutely something I want to do because there's so many esoteric type topics that could be integrated in a way that's meaningful to people in this world, like we've been talking about this whole time, bringing this into the world that we live in. So I just wanted to touch on that. I don't necessarily see myself doing retreats and things like that. This would be more like online type curriculum. But yeah, go ahead, Cosmic.
Yeah, I love everything everybody's sharing here, and I am actually going to be doing retreats. That's why I'm building like a tiny home village kind of retreat space in the forest where I live, because I'm going to be opening spaces for people to come in person who want to be close to the land and sit under the stars with the bonfires and have the conversations and remember things together, and integrate. So I think a combination of these great ideas are going to be manifesting throughout the world. And I also think that anything we do, wherever we're at in the grid of Earth, ripple effects throughout space and time. So I'm proud of us, all of us here who are having the courage to remember who we are and who we've been, and connect to like the infiniteness of space and time as we perceive it. I'm proud of us. It takes courage. It takes being willing to feel vulnerable like the snake skin. It takes being willing to go through the season of fall in our souls where stuff falls off and other things go into dormancy and then other things are preparing to be reborn. It takes seeing your life in seasons and timing things out divinely and being spirit guided, and it takes humility. And so I guess we'll probably wrap the room for today, but this has been a beautiful place. I'm proud of all of us for being courageous and kind and humble. And next week we're going to talk about the topic of like dark energy, dark spirits, entities, narcissism, how to protect yourself, how to understand how and why that works and what that is, and how to transcend it and maybe even transmute it in a way that doesn't harm yourself. So, yeah, did you want to say something, Susan?
Yeah, just real quick, and maybe we can touch on this next Thursday because I know you want to wrap up soon. The question was asked in the chat about how do I find someone to help me, discover my past lives, and how do I know what's real? And that kind of gets into what you're talking about for next week, because some of it can seem real, but it may not be. It may be some thing, an entity, whatever, messing with you for its own purposes. So developing intuition, it's the only way. It's the only thing I could say that works, I guess. And that's a whole topic unto itself. But maybe we can get into that next Thursday. I don't know if the gal who asked it is still in the room, but yeah.
Yeah, we will. And that's a good point. One thing that's really profound on that one, real quick, is that it always seems to me that when creator wants to deliver a message through someone else, it's going to be something that creator already delivered to you at some level. So then it will be a resonance and a confirmation. It won't be a, are you kidding me? All these secrets about me that I hadn't even thought of before. It's not going to be like that usually, because we go first from within and we first connect to source creator. And that's usually how it works. And sometimes that's how you'll know someone's counterfeiting, but we can get into some of that. I like the idea of kind of blending these supernatural topics we talk about into each other in the shows, even though we might be focused on a theme. So thank you to everybody that was a part of the show today and everybody that listened. I love you all, and I'm looking
Thank
forward
you.
to next week.